واقرأ كتابا يفيد الاصطلاح به تدري الصحيح من الموصوف بالسقم.
Have you ever seen this in a masjid? Whoever sends salah upon the Prophet ﷺ 80 times after Asr on Friday will have 80 years of sins forgiven. It's a popular claim. Some people are very insistent on promoting this narration like it's an established sunnah. But is it actually authentic? Let's break it down. The first version is found in Al-Qurbah by Ibn Bashkuwal, and it mentions it from Sahl ibn Abdullah. However, this chain is disconnected. It doesn't even come from the Prophet ﷺ, and Sahl ibn Abdullah is not a Sahabi. So the chain is completely missing, and the narration can't be relied on. Another version is mentioned in At-Targhib fi Fadail al-A'mal by Ibn Shaheen, and it ends with the Prophet ﷺ mentioning this statement. However, the isnad has major issues. A'un ibn Umara was called Munkar al-Hadith, and others concluded that he had many mistakes, although his reports can be written down. Another narrator, Hajjaj ibn Sinan, was declared as matruk, rejected. Ibn Hajar mentioned that he narrated a munkar hadith, and then mentioned this hadith as the example. Then you have Ali ibn Zayd ibn Jada'an, who was known for many mistakes and is judged as extremely weak. Imam ad-Daraqutni mentioned that this hadith is gharib, extremely strange, and it was reported only through these three weak narrators. Maybe that's why the isnad in the first version is missing. It gets even more confusing. The version recorded by Imam al-Dhahabi in Mizan al-I'tidal is recorded under the entry of Hajjaj ibn Sayyar. The chain here appears with different names. Second al-Burjumi could actually have been Zakaria al-Burjumi, and he is also weak. Hajjaj ibn Sinan could have been Hajjaj ibn Sayyar, who is deemed as matruk, rejected. So even the identities of the narrators are unclear, which also adds to the unreliability of this narration. Then you have the narration mentioned by Ad-Daylami in his Musnad al-Firdaus. The same content, same names, therefore the same verdict. Extremely weak. Next we have the narration mentioned in Tarikh Baghdad, and this version contains a guy called Wahb ibn Dawood ibn Sulaiman. Imam al-Dhahabi mentions him in Al-Mizan, and then mentions this hadith as an example of his weakness. Then he also mentions that Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi recorded a hadith that he himself fabricated. So this isn't just weak, but it's a red flag. Then there's a final version mentioned in At-Targhib wa-Tarhib by Al-Asbahani. It claims the same narration but with the number 40, and that mentioning Qul huwallahu ahad 40 times builds a bridge over Jahannam. Sounds poetic, but in the chain is Muhammad ibn Razam. Al-Azdi rejected him. Ad-Daraqutni mentions that he narrates false reports, and Al-Dhahabi mentions that he's accused of fabrication. So what's the final conclusion on this hadith? Every single version of this narration is extremely weak, da'if jiddan. It can't be used to prove a specific reward for sending salah on the Prophet ﷺ after Asr on Friday,